Southeast Radio's Business Matters with Karl Fitzpatrick.
Southeast Radio.
DHL has been operating in Ireland for many decades, and over that period, the business has witnessed many trends and changes within the market. Now, in the midst of the online revolution and ahead of Brexit, I've invited the Managing Director of DHL, Bernard McCarthy, to join us on this morning's programme. So, Bernard, start by telling us about DHL.
We've been operating in Ireland since 1979. We deal with the 3,000 companies across the country. So we're helping connect them into their customers and suppliers across 220 countries worldwide, predominantly providing export services to these companies. And, that's a key part for us as a trading nation. And in particular, the express capability allows Irish companies compete with competitors in countries around Europe and beyond. And by being able to get their product to market 24 hours or 48 hours, it means they can compete head on with local competitors.
Is speed very much the currency of the 21st century in your business?
Absolutely. I think that's something which, again, in the age of technology, with this, the whole almost Uberization, if you want to call it that, of society, people just expect things, today. And we see it most especially in e-commerce, which has really changed the shape of our industry over the last number of years. Who doesn't shop online these days? And it represents, I think, both an opportunity and a threat for Irish businesses. I don't think we've been the greatest at really embracing the opportunity that exists, but we're seeing some signs that that's starting to change.
And of course, without that digital revolution, where would DHL's business be today?
Well, I'm around the business a long time, 30 years or thereabouts, and it's a very different business today to what we had back then. We used to have a situation where a courier would, handwrite his list of deliveries and go on the roads, and we had radios in the vans and try and keep contact that way. Today, everything is pretty much, information is available instantaneously online. People will be familiar with the scanners that these guys carry. Signatures, proof of delivery is captured on the screen. Information is made available, pretty much instantaneously online. The business is entirely different today to the business I joined back then. And the thing about it is back then, an international delivery to a private address was very much the exception. Today, with online sales and online e-commerce, a huge proportion of our business, both inbound and outbound, is now to do with international e-commerce.
I'm curious to know, what percentage of your business is now reliant on online retailing?
It varies throughout the year. And when I look at it both, we look at our inbound, our import cycle and our outbound cycle. Certainly on the inbound side, more than 50% now is B2C, as we would call it, business to consumer deliveries. Outbound, in terms of our export cycle, is not as high as that, but it is growing. The proportion is growing. And like I said earlier, I don't think Irish companies have been as quick as they might be to really embrace the opportunity. We've got some great examples of companies who do it really well. But, we came across a statistic recently. A company called Sales Optimize did a research study, and they identified that only 20% of Irish online retailers offer an international service. So it means, only 1 in 5 is trading internationally. And the opportunity that's there, that exists, is hugely significant. And for me, it's a big missed opportunity. It really is.
So I'm interested to find out, Bernard, in terms of the products that are coming into Ireland from an online retailing perspective, what countries are they coming from?
Well, a huge amount is coming from the UK. And most especially since the Brexit vote, as I'm sure you know, the value of sterling has depreciated significantly. So that makes purchasing online from the UK, very attractive. It's not just the UK, it's literally global. We see a lot from the States, we see a lot from the Far East and China, but proportionally the UK is by far the biggest origin. Of course, that then the question mark that exists around that into the future, is significant.
And what are you doing in DHL to protect yourself against, let's call it, a hard Brexit?
Yeah, well, we very much have the view, we're hoping for the best, but planning for the worst. So when I say we're hoping for the best, it's our strongly held view that for the UK to remain within the single market and the customs union is the best outcome for all concerned. But clearly we can't influence that. So in terms of planning for the worst, in very simple terms, in the future, in a hard Brexit scenario, every shipment from our perspective coming into the country will have to be customs cleared. It will clearly create some delays. It's hard for people to get their head around the sheer volume of importation from the UK. Pretty much everything moves. Everything is in free circulation today. There are no customs controls to speak of other than for certain very limited range of product. So the extent to which that creates a challenge logistically is very significant. So from our point of view, it's about making sure we have the resources and the capability to manage that additional volume in terms of the customs clearance. But indeed, from a revenue perspective, that they will have the resources and the capability to do that also. I think it's noteworthy, and very recently there was a government announcement that 700 new customs officials are being hired. That really, I think, is significant. And for me, it says that in government circles, there's a sense that the likelihood of a hard Brexit is becoming more and more likely, and that's a significant investment, if you like, on their behalf to bring in that number of additional officials.
And in terms of the export market then, Bernard, where are those products going?
Particularly in terms of the e-commerce companies, there's an unbelievable array of product that's been exported from Ireland. So like I said, I don't think we've been, as a trading nation, quick to get onto this, but it's unbelievable the diversity of what we handle. So we've got companies shipping everything from hair extensions, iron jumpers, high fashion items, technology items, makeup. There's just the list is pretty much endless. And I think what it demonstrates is if you've got a product that's got, it's pitched at the right price, you've got if you've got customers in Ireland who are interested in your product, the strong likelihood is that you'll be able to find customers outside of Ireland. So it's grasping that opportunity to really, promote your business. And interestingly, and people may not be aware, but, Enterprise Ireland are really good on this stuff, as I'm sure you're aware, in the local enterprise offices. For companies, there's a trading online voucher scheme out there where SMEs can get up to €2,500 of financial assistance to grow their website presence, to develop their digital strategy. And any customer I've ever spoken to who've had contact with EI and with the local enterprise offices are always very positive about the support that they receive. So I'd really encourage SMEs in particular to investigate that and to get that kind of support on board. It's invaluable. Now,
Bernard, if SMEs are considering exporting their products to new markets, what supports and advice can DHL Express Ireland provide?
Well, it's really about helping companies just to navigate what's required in terms of, most especially if they're exporting outside of the EU, helping them understand the customs requirements, the paperwork requirements. And I suppose just giving them the confidence in terms of, asking what sometimes are what might seem like stupid questions. The big companies have special, they'll have logistics specialists or, transportation people who are well versed in this stuff. But if you're an SME and you're exporting for the first time, there are no stupid questions. It's about understanding what's required, and even down to not every shipment not every export needs to go express. It's about selecting the right mode of transport, understanding terms of trade. If they're going outside of the EU, understanding what insurance arrangements are in place, etc., and just really helping the company, an SME, just to find their feet, gain the confidence they need, and just provide the support.
Now, Bernard, the fulfilment piece of the jigsaw is often one piece that business owners really find complex when it comes to exporting. What advice have you got for them in that respect?
It really depends on your scale and the complexity in terms of the product offering that you have. It's really about understanding, what complexity do you have? What are the lead times that you've committed to your customers? What's the availability of your product and stock in terms of your inbound cycles? I think it's very much, business to business specific. But there's, again, the support from players out there, large and small, who can provide, warehousing, pick and pack type services, contract logistics, whatever your scale, there's a supplier out there who can meet your needs.
In recent weeks, we have seen the completion of An Post's first drone delivery. Do you think that drone deliveries will become more common in your sector in the years to come?
Look, it's one of those, I think certainly DHL have done some trials, Amazon have done trials. At the moment, I think it's as much about a positioning and almost a PR piece. There's no question that down the track it will become something which will happen. But I don't think it's a case of, your standard delivery will be done by a drone. Where there are maybe, difficult to reach locations, I think that's where it can potentially add value. I don't see it happening in the very short term, but, in the medium term, I think that it'll start to find a niche in terms of where it can really make it, add some value. I think at the moment we're not quite at that stage.
Southeast Radio's Business Matters with Karl Fitzpatrick.
Southeast